In this HackerRank problem, Java Loops 1, we are going to use loops to help us do some math. Whenever we're given boundaries, like where we want to operate between 1 and 10 here, we're going to want to use a for loop. So we're given an integer n, and it's going to print its first 10 multiples. You can read the rest of this information right here. Our sample input is given a 2, so we have a 2 for our n, and this is what our output should look like in here. Now let's go to our code. First, we have all these import statements, and we're gonna not really use any of these. We just need the standard Java import. We have our public class solution in here. Then we have our public static void main, where we're going to be throwing, or we're going to be coding. It throws an IO exception, so that means we only want to take the correct input. We have a buffer reader instead of a scanner. This is going to take our user input, so we're just calling it buffer reader here, and we have a new object in the new buffer reader where we input our new input stream reader where we have our system.in. So we basically have the system input, we're passing it to the input stream reader, and then it goes to our buffer reader. This is just another way of doing a scanner. So we have int n is equal to, we have integer.parseInt, and then we're parsing our buffer reader right here. So we want to make sure that we get an integer value. Otherwise, it should throw an IO exception in here. So we have our buffer reader.readline.trim. We want to make sure we're only taking a number. So in n, we're just going to use the sample input of 2, and then we're going to eventually close our buffer reader. We can leave that at the end of our program for now and code inside of here. Remember how I said we had a for loop earlier? We're going to do int a is equal to 1 this time. Typically I started at 0, but we are going to use this a value to go through and print these out. So this second number is going to be based on this a right here. So we're going to want to run a as long as it is less than or equal to 10. We'll do a plus plus, and then inside of here is where we're going to be doing our coding. We actually don't need these braces. We can do it on the same line because we're only going to use one line of code. We're going to do a system.out.println, and because we want them to be printed on separate lines every single time. Inside of here, we first want to print our value, so that's going to be n. We are going to have a appended space with an x and then a space, and then to this we are going to want to append our current value that's being incremented. That's going to be our a. After that, we are going to print a space, then an equal sign, and then we are going to print the actual mathematical value. So that's going to be our a times n, or if you look at it how our sample output is, it's going to be n times our a. And that should give us our value right there. It's going to be all done in this for loop. So let's submit our code. Again, this is the code. It's going to pass the test cases. If you have any questions, as always, leave them in the comments below.